Open the podcast bay doors, Hal.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 163 of Welcome to Geektown. I'm your host, Kurt Onstead. I've been a proud geek all my life, being into role-playing games, board games, sci-fi, fantasy, and especially superheroes and comics. And I want to help others join me in those pursuits, but I've found that sometimes people can get overwhelmed or feel left out because they don't already have what some consider the requisite knowledge to be considered a fan. And that's where Welcome to Geektown comes in. Here you can ask your questions without feeling like a gatekeeper is calling you out for not yet being fully versed in every aspect of your new interest. We've reached the end of another month, so I wanted to be sure to thank my patrons once again. Mike Sterling, Justin Bailey, Lily Breen, Jesse Clark, Ricky Garvin, Rob Garrison, Aaron Woodward, Aaron Borst, Carla Hoffman, Lyndon Onstead, Julio Herrera, and Matthew Saint. I truly appreciate your continued support. I'd been having issues with my microphone lately, and thanks to your generous contributions, I was able to get a new Blue Yeti mic, which you're hearing for the first time now. So once again, thank you. And if you want to join in with helping the show out, it's just $1 per month, and that gets you this monthly shoutout, as well as audio outtakes and full scripts of every written show. Last episode, we looked at one of the replacement Green Lanterns, specifically Guy Gardner, the first backup GL we were introduced to in the comics. However, as I mentioned last time, Guy went into a coma and didn't actually get a chance to wield the ring until issue number 117. In the meantime, the Guardians of the Universe chose a new backup for Hal, and it was none other than John Stewart.
My name is John Stewart, and welcome to the problem.
No, not that John Stewart. Although their names sound the same, the Green Lantern character spells his first name with an H, whereas the famous comedian/host is H-less. John was introduced in 1971's Green Lantern number 87, during the acclaimed run by Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, where they brought in more real-world issues rather than fantastical space adventures. And so the fact that John was an African-American man was very front and center in his first appearance. In this story, the Guardians of the Universe tell Hal that because of Guy being in a coma, they have chosen a new backup for Hal in case something ever goes wrong. That backup being, of course, John Stewart. We first meet John confronting some cops who are harassing two older black men sitting at a fold-out table on the sidewalk playing dominoes. Hal, still talking to the Guardians, says that John has a, quote, chip on his shoulder the size of the Rock of Gibraltar, end quote, and is unsure of their choice, even though he is apparently honest and fearless, the two main qualities the Guardians look for in a Green Lantern. But Hal offers the gig to John, who happily accepts. As the pair are flying around as part of John's training, they come across a senator who is currently running for president as he arrives at an airport. The crowd greeting him is so large and out of control that an oil truck has to careen out of the way at the last minute. Hal and John are able to save everyone, but John allows the senator to get sprayed with oil, then proceeds to mock the senator with a blackface joke. Hal accuses John of purposefully letting the oil splash onto the senator, which John freely admits to. It turns out the senator is a known racist. In a later speech, he uses a racial slur and refers to quote-unquote science, stating that people of African descent have smaller brains, so it's not subtle. Hal assigns John to protect the senator while he's in town as a form of punishment for John's insubordination. And sure enough, a black man with a handgun shoots at the senator during his speech. While Hal goes after the gunman, John leaves, once again frustrating Hal, but it was for good reason. It turns out the apparent assassin was only firing blanks, while outside there was a gunman who was going to shoot a police officer working security. John had recognized the original shooter from the first encounter with the senator and had seen him discussing things with the second shooter there, and so went searching for that second man, figuring out the plan. The senator had arranged the whole thing in order to make it look like African Americans were on a rampage, to use John's words. The story ends with Hal respecting John's abilities and accepting him as a backup. During this first story, we learn that John is an architect, and in later stories that's reflected in the constructs he creates. We're told that every nut and bolt is included in the constructs John wills into being, and that none of them are ever hollow, unlike Hal's more simple-to-the-point creations. More recently, John has made use of his architectural skills in helping to design the latest version of the Hall of Justice, whose exterior bears a striking resemblance to the hall seen in the Super Friends cartoon. John's history was retconned in the early 2000s to include a stint as a Marine. This retcon brought him closer to the version seen in the DCAU Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoons. If you read that first issue with John, it's hard to believe someone so anti-authoritarian would join the military, but they're able to square that circle by having his time in the Corps leading to a court-martial due to insubordination. While he ends up being honorably discharged due to the heroic action he took while going against orders, you can see how the experience would lead him to reject authority. John makes a couple of small appearances filling in for Hal, including a couple of adventures with the Justice League, but it isn't until issue number 181 that John takes on the mantle of Green Lantern full-time, after Hal quits. He and Hal co-lead the Green Lantern title for some time, even though Hal has completely given up the superhero life. During this run, John's secret identity is revealed on the news, making him one of the earliest heroes to have a public identity in the DC universe. He also partnered with another Green Lantern named Katma Tui, in order to more fully train in his abilities. He and Katma fell in love and were married in Green Lantern Corps number 212. The Green Lantern book was renamed at issue number 201 as the focus of the book shifted to become a team title. Unfortunately, Katma was later killed by Star Sapphire, and John has mostly remained single since then. The story that has most defined John came in a miniseries titled Cosmic Odyssey, written by Jim Starlin with art by future Hellboy creator Mike Mignola. In that story, a group of heroes band together to fight an anti-life entity. They split into teams to try to save various planets targeted by the creature, and John ends up with Martian Manhunter on the planet Xanthi. However, John's arrogance causes him to abandon Manhunter, saying that this kind of fight is out of the Martians' league. However, when John finds the bomb that is set to destroy the planet, he finds that it has been specifically made out of yellow metal. This is during the time when Green Lantern rings couldn't affect anything yellow, so John can only watch as the bomb explodes and kills the millions of sentient creatures inhabiting the world. John contemplates suicide over the guilt, and although Martian Manhunter has no words of consolation, but only contempt, the anger he incites fuels John enough to live. Martian Manhunter's smile in the last panel of this sequence suggests that the mind reader knew exactly what he was doing when he chose to enrage rather than console. Of all of John Stewart's adventures, this is the one most frequently referred back to, as John continues to feel guilt over his mistake, but uses that guilt as a motivator for becoming a better hero. John's first attempt at dealing with this guilt led him to return to Oa, which had recently been destroyed, leaving only a handful of active Green Lanterns in the universe. where he discovered one lone Guardian who had been driven insane from the Solitude. The others had left when the planet had been destroyed. That Guardian kidnapped John when he arrived and used his ring to abduct cities from various planets and create a patchwork community to assuage his loneliness. When the rest of the Guardians returned, John was put in charge of this mosaic community, and that story was told in the 19-issue series Green Lantern Mosaic, which ended with John actually ascending to become the first mortal Guardian of the Universe. That status was very short-lived, however, when Hal Jordan went insane and destroyed Oa once more. John survived, but was once again powerless, until offered an opportunity to become a Dark Star, a force similar to the Green Lanterns, created by an offshoot of the Guardians, also looking to achieve order in the universe. His tenure as a Dark Star was also short, however, when he was crippled in battle with Graven. He went back to life as a civilian for some time, but showed up in the Green Lantern book as a supporting character, acting as a mentor to Kyle Rayner, who we'll get to in a future episode. Thanks to Hal Jordan's intervention, John regained the use of his legs, and even donned a ring again for a couple of issues, but mostly stayed out of the spotlight during this time. However, with the Green Lantern Rebirth storyline, also discussed in the last episode, the Corps came back and the 2 lanterns per sector rule was instated, with Hal spending most of his time on Earth and John patrolling the rest of the sector as one of the leads in the Green Lantern Corps title. Since then, John has mostly been a member of the Green Lantern Corps in good standing, although during the War of the Light story, he briefly donned an indigo ring instead. Check out episode 122 for the various colors of lanterns and what they represent, and later was forced to use a violet ring, making him the first male to wield the powers of the Star Sapphire. Also in the pages of Justice League, John became the first member of the Ultraviolet Corps, but that's one of those stories that's been mostly left by the wayside. As I mentioned last episode, when the New 52 reboot hit the DC Universe, the Green Lantern characters were left mostly untouched, continuing their stories as if nothing had happened. That includes John, who remained a core part of the Green Lantern mythos through the New 52 and into Rebirth. He even once again got a taste of cosmic power, similar to his time as a Guardian, when he, with the help of the new god Lonar, ascended to the next step of evolution and became able to wield the power of the green energy of willpower without the need for a ring or battery, and at levels undreamt of by the regular Green Lanterns. Calling himself the Emerald Knight, he led a team of lanterns and fought against a character named Isak. In that story, Xanthi miraculously returned, and John ended that one-shot saying he was going to go look for his wife, the deceased Katmatui. He has since shown up in the latest Green Lantern title, part of the Dawn of DC initiative, in backup stories that show him back on Earth in an apparently unpowered form. That story is still ongoing as of this recording, with a mysterious threat being on its way to Earth, so I suspect that John will regain his powers soon, assuming he's not just pretending to be powerless. Once again, due to the rich history of the character, I was only able to cover one of the Green Lantern replacements. That's likely the case with the next one as well, as he was the primary Green Lantern for most of the 90s and into the 2000s. That's right, next scripted episode we'll be talking about Crabface Guy, aka Kyle Rayner. If you don't get that, do a Google image search for Kyle Rayner's original costume. However, we'll be taking a break from Green Lanterns for a little while to talk about another famous comic character who dresses in green. Loki is back for Season 2 on Disney+, and I'll be doing a deep dive on that, starting in 2 weeks. And of course, I'm always open to suggestions for future episodes. You can email any of those, along with comments on the show in general, to welcome to Geektown, all spelled out, at gmail.com. Or you can go to the website, welcome to, the number 2 in this case, geektown.com, and click the Submit a Question link if you'd prefer to remain anonymous. Other contact options include facebook.com/welcome to Geektown, Twitter at Geektown Podcast, Mastodon at welcome to Geektown at mastodon.social, or Blue Sky at welcome to geektown.bluesky.social. Also, if you'd like to support the show directly, why not become a patron at patreon.com/welcome to Geektown for just $1 per month to get access to full scripts of the shows, audio outtakes, and a monthly shoutout. You can also help the show grow by subscribing and giving a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts to join the Geektown City Council, which helps other people find the show, so we can all tell them, welcome to Geektown, population, us. Welcome to Geektown is written, narrated, edited, and produced by me, Kurt Onstead. Theme music is by Aaron Lovitz, logo art by Archie Santana. All of their sound clips are the copyrighted material of their respective owners, and no infringement is intended, falling under fair use.